what's up? This your boy Big Man. You already know what it is. Now, today we're going to talk about a situation that's been happening in hip-hop way too much and way too often. Now, this is rappers getting killed in their own hometown. You would think that most rappers would get more love than a little bit in the cities that they make famous and that they come from. But man, this is not the case. For some reason, most rappers who start to rise and get big names get more hate in their hometown than anywhere else in America. They'll go to another city on the other side of the country and they'll get mad love. But in their own backyard, man, nothing but hate. Now, they might get some love too, but there's so many haters in their hometown, this has become a deadly occurrence in hip hop. Now, what we're going to do in this video is discuss some of the biggest cases of this hometown hate that's gone down in hip hop since 2013. Just like in that very famous Bootsy video that he did with DJ Vlad, he basically spelled it out, man. It's a situation where people in your own hometown hate to see you gaining that much fame and that much notoriety, and sometimes the consequences are deadly. So before I begin, do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and man, let's get it. Now, let's first start in 2013. When a 22-year-old rapper by the name of Doe B was on his way. And when I say Doe B was on his way, this was during the time that T.I. had transitioned into more of the CEO role and had really started to let the rapping go. And Doe B was like the heir apparent. He was about to take over T.I.'s whole franchise and be his lead artist. He was an interesting figure because he had a patch over his eye and a deep southern draw over the beat that meshed real well. Dude was dope artist, and his story is even crazier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the news story from the local news there in Alabama, and then I'm going to break down the clip afterwards with my commentary. So here you go.
A college student and a well-known local rap artist were killed over the weekend, and now we're learning more about a possible motive in this crime, and we're hearing from the victims' families. First, the arrest. This is Jason Quan McWilliams. Police say he turned himself in and is now charged with capital murder. They say he's responsible for the shooting deaths of rapper Glenn Thomas, also known as Doe B, and Troy University student Kimberly Johnson. We also learned today that the shooting was the result of an ongoing dispute between McWilliams and Doe B. It happened inside Centennial Bar and Grill in Montgomery, formerly known as the Rose Supper Club near downtown.
There were 6 remaining that suffered or sustained gunshot wounds. Some of those individuals were non-life-threatening. They have already been treated and released from local hospitals. One we know right now is still listed in critical condition.
Court documents show McWilliams has an extensive criminal history, including arrests and jail time for domestic violence, other shootings, robbery, and drugs. WSFA 12 News has been in contact with McWilliams' family. One member tells us they believe he is innocent based on eyewitness accounts. They would not go on camera for an...
Now, as you heard in that news story, there was another casualty in the shooting, a college student as well. But Doe B, and a part of the news story that they left out is Doe B actually was trying to help some folks get into the club for a show he was doing. He was doing a favor going to that small venue to do the show in the first place. So he went to the venue. 2 guys couldn't get in. And those 2 guys who couldn't get in eventually found a way in. And once they got in, they disrupted the show by throwing gang signs, throwing their hands up, and trying to stand in the front of the stage until finally Doe B snapped. They got into an altercation. And that's when this shooting started taking place, allegedly. Now, this is another sad situation where Doe B was looking out for a lot of people, man. He was looking out for folks back in his hometown, trying to do small venues still for them when he was already too big for that. And he was trying to show love to his city, and it ended up fatally for him. All right, now with the next case, we're going to talk about none other than Chinx Drugz. Now, Chinx Drugz was the man. He was like the Memphis Bleak to French Montana's Jay-Z. Now, I'm not saying that French Montana rhymes like Jay-Z, but Chinx Drugz was the second in command and the next up in French Montana's Coke Boys crew. Now, in May 17th, 2015, he met his untimely demise due to probably the worst example of hometown hate you ever seen. The guys who allegedly murdered Chinx Drugz did it all because of hate. First, it started with an altercation that they had while they were all locked up in Rikers. And then, after they were all released, Chinx Drugz blows up as a rapper, and they're still aspiring rappers, and they build up a hatred. One of the guys, named Q, is they allege that he was pretty much obsessed with Chinx Drugz. Like, he was obsessed with his success and how big he had become. And this led to a horrible situation and Chinx murder. So I'm going to play this news clip right here with Chinx's wife in that news report. Chinx had 3 kids, man. And his wife had to go to court every day and face those murderers, man, or the people who are allegedly responsible for committing the murder. And Chinx Drugz, man, didn't do anything to these cats but stay at home and win. That was it. This is this is the classic example of hometown hate that Bootsy was talking about. They got into a spat in jail. They went their way. He went his way. He ends up blowing up. He was just leaving from getting money. He was leaving from a booking when they followed him and tracked him down. And there's multiple stories from the police detectives out there that talked about the fact that these guys just built up this hate for Chinx Drugz just because he was winning, because they'd see him on TV, on the music videos, and it goes back to that point of rappers getting out of their own hometown. The next case of hometown hate is probably one of the most famous, Bankroll Fresh. Now, Bankroll Fresh was bubbling on his own, man. He was popping. He had a song called Hot Boy that was really going heavy. He had a mixtape of a similar name that was going heavy. And he was pretty much on his way. On the independent grind, had his own team and everything made up. But him and somebody who used to be allegedly one of his friends, No Plug, ended up getting into an altercation all about turkey giveaways. Like, this thing spanned from giving away turkeys and ended up being a fight in the studio. Then from the fight in the studio ended up being a shooting situation where Bankroll Fresh lost his life. Now, No Plug was obviously hating on Bankroll Fresh. No doubt about it. Everybody agrees on that point. But what really made the hip-hop community turn their back on No Plug was a DJ Vlad interview where he went on and he showed absolutely no remorse for the shooting and was smiling through the interview. It just rubbed everybody the wrong way, and it drew a line in hip-hop to what people would tolerate and what they wouldn't. Now, I'm going to play the news clip and the news story from Atlanta of what took place in the studio.
Moments leading up to the death of rapper Bankroll Fresh, whose real name was Trentavious White. Police told us earlier this month they were closing the case after determining another man shot the rapper in self-defense. But this new video helps piece together how they came to that conclusion after fellow rapper Mendez Owens, who goes by the stage name No Plug, went to the studio that night in 2016 to try to settle an ongoing dispute with Bankroll Fresh. It all started just after 10:30 p.m. on March 4th when rapper No Plug walks into studio execs in Atlanta with a group of friends. But not long after No Plug got there, Bankroll Fresh confronted him, and a fight broke out between the two in the back room. Investigators said neither of the men had guns at the time, but that quickly changed as several other men there were armed. The fight gets broken up, but quickly it spills onto the street. Minutes after No Plug and his friends drive off in a Dodge Charger, they come back. Bankroll Fresh greets them with an SKS rifle. You can see him flashing at them in this video. At that time, 5 other men come out of the studio, guns drawn. Bankroll then points the rifle at the car a few more times while yelling at the people in the vehicle. Then you can see Bankroll Fresh fire the first shot toward the Charger. A few seconds later, the Charger pulls off. You see a flash coming from the car. As Bankroll walks back into the studio, you see the glass on the front door of the studio shatter, which is when police believe that he was shot in the right hip. Then about 2 minutes later, we see Bankroll Fresh being carried out of the studio by friends who drive him to Hugh Spalding Children's Hospital. Gunfire then begins to shower the studio once again, but you can't see in the video who is firing the shots. Police ultimately determined a man inside the car with No Plug fired the...
Bankroll Fresh already had a hit song. He had no reason to be mixing it up with No Plug, who was virtually unknown. The only thing that No Plug had on Bankroll Fresh was the fact that he was jealous of his success. And it showed, and it was evident in that Vlad interview. But No Plug wasn't technically wrong in this situation. It's just another black eye in hip hop, and you see why rappers need to keep it moving and start to distance themselves as soon as they blow up, man. Because this is another situation where, man, it just all went bad. This next rap artist is not as well known. His name is Jimmy Wopo. Now, Jimmy Wopo is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And dude had a couple world star music videos out there and a couple of things he was doing in his community. He was well known and he was definitely on the rise. And dude really wasn't at that level to where I think he had the opportunity to move. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But the case involved in his shooting and stuff is very interesting, so I couldn't leave him off the list. So check out this news clip and then come back for my commentary afterwards.
A violent street gang from the Hill District are in jail tonight, facing federal racketeering charges.
They are accused of being involved in everything from murders to robberies to drug trafficking. And police tell us that one of their leaders was murdered rapper Jimmy Wopo. Ralph Iannotti is live tonight with some new details on this big investigation. Ralph, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Julie. They used to brag about their criminal exploits on rap video on YouTube. Well, tonight it looks like a local street gang has been put out of business. 22-year-old Deontay Griffin, 20-year-old Sidney Pack, and 23-year-old Richard Kelly, all facing federal racketeering charges. Prosecutors say the three young Hill District men were members of a violent street gang called 1100.
The gang has effectively been dismantled. We have taken out its leadership.
Federal court papers say the most prominent leader of the 1100 gang was Pittsburgh rapper Jimmy Wopo, whose real name was Trevon Smart. Wopo was not charged in the new indictment. He was identified in the court papers by the initials TS. No one has been arrested in connection with Wopo's murder.
He directed murders and attempted murders. He was active in both rewarding the gang members who were participating in those activities and using his prominence in the music videos, which we lay out in the indictment, to both propagate the message of the gang, but to intimidate people.
The 1100 gang, according to prosecutors, was responsible for the murders of at least 3 rival gang members, including 20-year-old Christopher Richardson, who was shot and killed in 2015. Richardson's mother, who did not want to be identified for her own safety, was relieved by the new arrests, but worried about the mixed message the alleged criminal activity of Wopo and the others sends out.
He did a lot for the kids in the community. The opposite of him doing a lot for the community was he was ordering people's family members to be killed. My son is one.
The message is that if you're a violent gang in Pittsburgh, we're coming after you.
Now, according to today's unsealed indictment, members of that Hill District gang were required to commit acts of violence to maintain their membership and maintain discipline. We're live tonight outside the federal courthouse downtown. I'm Ralph Iannotti, KDKA TV News.
Now, according to that report, Jimmy Wopo was an alleged gang leader, man, and he was really in the streets and really about that life. Now, somebody was talking, one of the ladies, she said basically, you know, folks were carrying on hits on his behalf, allegedly, and dude was really, really in those streets. So, and he would do things like give away money to the community and stuff like that. But then on the back end, he'd be out there in the streets committing crimes. But Jimmy Wopo, man, never got to reach his full potential in the rap game. And to this day, I believe his murder is still unsolved. It just went down as another senseless gang shooting. Now, somebody else was shot with Jimmy Wopo, and they actually survived their wounds. So I know more of this story is going to come out. Jimmy Wopo was 21 years old, and he had 3 kids, and this is a crazy situation, man. Now, Jimmy Wopo's death was overshadowed by the fact that rapper XXXTentacion had died in the same week. Now, he's not on this list because technically he left his hometown, and he was out in another town doing business when he met his untimely demise. Jimmy Wopo, he was actually in his hometown in Pittsburgh when this took place. Now, this is going to be the end of this video because it's running rather long. All right, now with that, I'm going to say rest in peace to all the fallen rappers. And man, on the next part, we're going to talk about some more recent cases like Young Greatness, Nipsey Hussle, Huey, and Mo3, where rappers ended up dying in their own hometown. Now, this is just a video so I could just put out the word, maybe even double what Bootsy was saying about rappers needing to move, man. Look at cats like NBA Youngboy. Look at cats like Bootsy. Look at even Lil Durk. They moved to new towns and things changed for them, man. I don't think they'd have the same result or be as successful as they are if they stayed in the same cities that they claim and were from. Now with that, this has been your boy Big Man. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you get a notification every time I drop this hot content. And we out of here. Peace.